NYU Stern's Globalization Explorer Maps tool is available free at globalization.stern.nyu.edu. Globalization looks different depending on where you are in the world and what business or policy area you are analyzing. The Maps tool helps visualize the world by sizing and coloring countries according to hundreds of indicators of international activity using cartogram maps. By default, the maps will show merchandise exports from the perspective of the country where you are viewing the site, in the most recent year for which data is available. If you are in Germany, this is the map you will see by default. You can easily switch to a different country by simply clicking on it. On the left part of the screen are menus to select the indicator or type of activity and country from which to analyze global flows. Below this, you will find the color selection menu. By default, the color scheme shows the percentage of each partner country's imports that come from the selected country. To focus first on how countries are sized, I will remove the coloring. Here, we see the world with all countries sized in proportion to the value of Germany's merchandise exports to them. The country with the largest share of Germany's merchandise exports is the United States. Therefore, the United States is expanded to be the largest country on this map, other than Germany itself, which is not sized based on the indicator. We can confirm this by hovering over it. Hovering over a country shows you the country name as well as the percentages behind the size and color variables. By doing this, we see that the United States receives 9% of Germany's merchandise exports. You can get more information by clicking Country Comparison Tools. This will show a comparison between the focal country and the country shown. Europe as a whole appears much larger than it does on a normal map, because about 2/3 of Germany's merchandise exports are within Europe. You can see this even more clearly using the Color by Classification feature. Selecting region, you can see that the map is dominated by Europe's blue. Coloring by classification allows you to easily see the breakdown of regions, income levels, and development levels by color. It can also be used to visually assess how much trade is within regional blocs like the European Union. Usually, countries that are members of the same bloc as the selected country are enlarged, signifying the greater portion of flows between them. Switching to regional bloc, you will see that over half of Germany's flows are with other European Union members. Now, let's go back to the default coloring by selecting Color by Share of Partner in opposite direction. Using this, we will see Germany's merchandise exports as a percentage of total imports for the partner country. Germany's share of other countries' merchandise imports is highest for its closest neighbors to the south and east. For its neighbors to the south and east, imports from Germany represent more than 23% of total merchandise imports. Therefore, these countries are colored in the deepest red. This is confirmed by looking at the third line of the tooltips. Countries where imports from Germany represent between 15 and 23% of total imports are colored in darker and lighter orange. Some of Germany's other European neighbors, like the UK, Spain, and Portugal, but also surprisingly Belgium, are in the 10 to 15% range, and thus are colored shades of the lightest yellow. In more distant countries, such as the US and China, imports from Germany fall to 4.5% to 10% as percentages of total imports. So, these countries are colored in lightest green. The color scale continues to change as shares decrease. In summary, the size-based perspective highlights the importance of European countries for Germany and shows the power of distance in reducing international flows. Adding the shares-based perspective depicted in the coloring makes the distance effects even clearer and helps with comparison across countries of different sizes. It highlights, for example, that the US is Germany's largest export market mainly because the US is the world's largest economy, not because Germany supplies a high share of the US's imports. On the other hand, Austria shows up as a major export market for Germany, mainly because of Germany's high, 42%, share of Austria's imports. Using the Color by Indicator option, you can gain additional insights on Germany's export partners. For instance, with merchandise exports as our size-based indicator, we can choose merchandise imports depth as our colors-based indicator. Merchandise imports depth shows the value of each country's merchandise imports as a percentage of that country's GDP, depicting how intensively each country imports. We see that several of Germany's neighbors are among the world's most intensive importers, as shown by their dark purple coloring on the map. Other countries, particularly a handful of Southeast Asian countries, are also in this category. While they do not trade as much with Germany as the high-depth European countries, they are shown larger than many other countries in that region. You may also notice that the United States, despite being Germany's largest single export market, is shaded the lightest color. This is because it imports only a very small percentage of its GDP. The share is shown in the tooltip, 12%. The two indicators build off one another to give a more complete picture of the market in these countries and their ties to Germany. Below the color selection menu, you will see the year menu. When you click on this, it will show a drop-down list of years. If you click the Animate button, this will show you year-to-year changes in the selected indicator from your focal country. Coming back to the indicator menu, you can browse through the available indicators by category, or you can search for an indicator by starting to type its name. This is a handy way to examine trade in specific types of products. For example, you can start to type VEH and select exports or imports of vehicles. You can type PHA to examine trade in pharmaceutical products. There are also indicators with no focal country, which are in the demography and economy section. For instance, GDP. There are thousands of possible maps to generate using our Globalization Explorer Maps tool. We hope that this tool will help you better understand the ties that connect economies and societies around the world. Thank you for watching.